Hi, my name is Aaron. I've been making the DDDNN joke videos. So this is my first attempt at making an actual face reveal video, while also talking about something I think is kind of important, particularly today. So I'm going to start by saying this is 100% a opinion piece. I don't want anybody to ever come away from something that I've made thinking that that was all that needed to be said. I'm going to always suggest that you go and do your own research. We're going to talk about a little bit about that today. So I try not to take myself too seriously. That includes how well informed I am. Pretty much everything that I do, I take with a grain of salt. I feel like this gives me the ability to have my own opinions about certain things, while still leaving myself open to being able to see somebody's side of a story, right? As I said, so far I've been making jokes with paper bags about the news, but there are times when information, particularly nowadays, seems to come at a premium, almost as if every piece of information or every information source has a different subjective opinion that comes with it. Like they might be pushing some kind of agenda. And then we, as the general public, are left to try to sift through all of those quote-unquote opinions that are presented as facts to then try to see actually what is actually happening. Hopefully all of that made sense. This point has been particularly driven home recently with the coronavirus and how the news media has been covering it. How many of us have heard one thing that literally gets contradicted or changed within the same day, sometimes within the same hour, from the same news source? Stuff like, you have to wear a face mask, and then you don't have to wear a face mask. You should all quarantine and stay inside, or it's all made up and we're totally fine. Everybody should go outside anyways. It's not a big deal. So how are we supposed to handle that kind of a thing? So this is essentially my suggestion. First of all, the reason I think this is happening is because in today's fast-moving internet age, everybody wants to be the first one to put out some of the most exciting, click-inducing information. This seems to have led to mountains of misinformation just being spewed out of the mouths of news sources like a 21-year-old at their first birthday party. And then we're left to go and sift through all that crap to try to see what's going on. So what should we do? I wish I could just say that if we stopped looking at clickbait, that the clickbait would stop. But there's always going to be clickbait, and there's always going to be people that are going to click on it and look at it. I think that part of that is because I think there's part of our brain that actually enjoys looking at car accidents. I mean, there's a reason why rubbernecking is a thing. We as humans have a weird fascination about hearing about bad things or seeing bad things. We kind of want to get involved for some reason. So I think it's important that we figure out a way to sift through information. I'll start off by saying that if you have a news source that you say is your news source, then that's bias and dangerous. And as much as we all love watching the silver fox that is Anderson Cooper, claiming to have a news source as the only source that you get your information from is literally creating blind spots for yourself, to the point where you are likely missing out on a lot of other information, a lot of other viewpoints on things. Keeping an open mind is important more nowadays than it ever was before. But even having an open mind has a caveat. So we'll start with some extremes. If you don't accept any information, then you're not informed, which is fine to a certain extent, as long as you aren't just pushing your own opinions out there as if they're facts. Because a lot of people do that. I'm trying to make it very clear with this video, throughout this video, that I am putting out an opinion. This is not a fact. So if you're ill-informed and you're pushing information out as if it's just your opinion, no harm, no foul. And on the other side, you obviously can't take every single bit of information that you intake as the truth, because you will have contradicting ideas that come into play. And if you're constantly changing your opinion about something, in today's age, with the way that the current climate is, we'll say politically, ideologically, you're going to be bouncing all over the place. As an example, I'm going to use hunting versus factory farming. So hunting, typically seen as when a person goes out looking for a specific type of animal or type of food. It can take days or weeks to find exactly what they're looking for, and then once they find that appropriate target, the meat can then feed that person for months and sometimes even a year. The quality of the meat is arguably substantially better than that comes from a factory farm, but the hunter has to train and be adequately prepared for the hunt, and then it takes a ton of effort for them to be able to do that, and then they have to actually be discerning when they find their target. Hunters they don't go out typically and just kill anything that they see, right? They go out specifically looking for, like, let's say a buck, and they're looking for a specific age range of a buck. And then that meat, arguably better than factory farmed meat, will be able to feed them for a long time. Put in the effort, you put in the effort, you get the quality. Factory farming. This is a method where meat is produced on a large scale. I assume most everybody's familiar with factory farming and what that is, because almost all of the meat that you find in a restaurant or in restaurants or in a grocery store comes from a factory farm. There is a degree of selection that's involved, but almost all of that selection happens at the farm or throughout that process before it even shows up on the shelf or on our plate. And the meat as a whole tends to be of lesser quality. So why am I talking about this? As I said, it takes a lot of effort to hunt. The reward can be higher, and you have to really work for it. You can find accurate news sources, but you tend to have to really work to find them and really vet out those sources. The reward is there, you just have to be invested. And some people, me included, are not always that invested. There's a lot of crap out there right now. Factory farming, we as consumers have almost no say, as I said, we have almost no say in how the meat is killed, butchered, processed, and then presented. And that is just like the majority of the news today. So we as consumers have nearly no say in how the information was gathered, selected, processed, and then presented. All we see are the specifically selected bits of information that are presented to us in a way that is designed to garner the most attention. It's like the advertising of Taco Bell. Please bear with me. I really love Taco Bell. They cleverly ignore the fact that their taco meat comes in a bag and is 88% real meat. Hunting takes a lot of effort, but factory farming, being the far easier option, takes all of the impetus off of us to be discerning and just turns us into passive receptacles, essentially. So my suggestion, and the whole point of this diatribe, is to find balance. Find that balance. Keep your mind open enough not to just eat tacos for the rest of your life, but be discerning enough so that you don't eat trash. If you have the desire and the ability to hunt, then by all means do so. But if you don't feel bad. If you don't have the effort to do that, don't feel bad. The news used to do this for us, I think. Back in the days of like Walter Cronkite. And then they would further select the best cuts of news. We're going to continue with the meat analogy. The best cuts of news for us, right? So they would take that news information and then they would present it to us. But as clickbait articles have started to become more and more popular, more and more mass produced, because of the large amount of ad revenue that comes about from them, the responsibility has started to sway. So the responsibility of being discerning has started to sway towards the consumer, so towards us. So again, maybe it's okay to occasionally grab some cheap food, but man cannot subsist on tacos alone. It's probably a good idea to go out every once in a while and really understand where your information is coming from. I think a lot of this comes from an awareness. I am aware of when I eat Taco Bell. I know that I'm choosing to eat low quality meat for various reasons. But I'm never going to claim that Taco Bell meat is the equivalent of an A5 Wagyu steak. So when you go about perusing your news sources, my recommendation is that it might help you to think about what that source's agenda might be. Taco Bell, while their advertising's good, they don't pretend to be anything other than Taco Bell. So with your news sources, are they trying to get views? Are they trying to tear someone or something down? Or are they actually trying to report a story that is important to the betterment of the public? In today's world, it really seems to me that you have to dig deep to find accurate, well thought out news stories that don't come with an attached agenda. So don't be afraid to strap on some hunting gear every once in a while and go out into the wilderness. Grab a bow, get your news yourself, and then take it with a grain of salt. Thanks for watching this attempt. I hope that you found it informative, and if you didn't agree with me, by all means, let me know. I'd love to talk about it. Depending on how this goes, I might make more. I was recently a guest on a podcast called Just a Guy, and it kind of really inspired me to continue to try to do this. I've been having the idea of having a podcast in the back of my head for a long time. The Just a Guy podcast is awesome. Highly recommend you checking it out on any platform that has podcasts. It's got my buddies Josh, Travis, and Bobby, and they talk about a myriad of different things. And they're very, very thoughtful guys, and their podcast is very well structured, I think, and it's really good. It's a good listen. So, with that, again, hope you enjoyed this. If you agree with me or disagree with me, let me know in the comments. By all means, we'll talk it out. Thanks. Have a good one.